The beautiful thing about procedure is this: once the students know how the class is run, they will more willingly do whatever it is you want them to do. And when the teacher knows how to manage a classroom, you can have the students do whatever it is you want them to do. And the most important thing is, then you and I can do what we were all hired to do: have a lot of fun, be creative, and have a very, very exciting class, and on top of that, teach them a whole lot of information. And that's why procedures and routines are so successful. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I don't teach procedures and routines all year long. How about just a day or two or three at the beginning? That's all I do. And now come with me, because for the next 175 days, I'm going to have the time of my life. The students come into my class one day, and they see this thing set up. And like most students, they say, "Mr. Wong, what are you going to do today?" I don't say a word. I walk over here and I get some water. And like in many classes, you don't have a faucet, so I bring in a vase of water. And so I just very quietly, I pour some water into a container. And then what I do is I come over here and I take this water. And for those of you sitting in the back who cannot see, I have two cans here. And out of the top is a little glass spigot of water, glass spigot coming out. And in the bottom is a plastic funnel. And between the two is some rubber tubing. And I go over here and I pour some water into the bottom funnel. And when I pour water into the bottom funnel, suddenly water comes out of the top and into the funnel. And they all go, Mr. Wong, how did you do that?" And I say, "Student, it's not how I did that. It will go on and on and on and around forever. Lies, lies, lies." But it does go around forever, because before they walk in the next day, I start it up again. I mean, before they come into class, I go get some more water and I pour some more water out. And I go over here with this container and I pour water in here, and the thing starts up again. So when they walk in, there's water going around. And they're so mystified that they come running down the next day. I don't have any students who are tardy. The next day they come down, "Mr. Wong, what are you going to do today?" Now imagine, if you will, that the next day I have some red water in here. And what I do is I pour some red water in here. Now I need to share something with you. I love to teach junior high school students. You want to know why I love to teach junior high school students? Because by now, the junior high school students in my class are already going bananas. And adults sit in the audience going, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" I go over here and I pour red water into this funnel. And out of the top comes green water. They say, "Mr. Wong, how'd you do that?" I got them motivated. And they come down the next day. They even bring their friends to find out what Mr. Wong's going to do. Next day, Mr. Wong walks into class with this, but instead of this, I've got a Coca-Cola can in my hand. So imagine, if you will, I take a can of Coca-Cola and I pour it into the funnel. I pour it into this container. And people are still sitting here going, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" And I come over here and I pour Coca-Cola into the funnel. And out of the top comes a clear liquid. I run over here and I put some clear liquid into the cup. And I say to the student, "Taste." They taste. "Mr. Wong, 7-Up. How'd you change Coca-Cola into 7-Up? I have them. And so I say to my students, when you come into school one day, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a couple of books out, and I want you to put it on the table. And I want you to leave a space between the two books. And I want you to put a piece of paper on top of the two books. You supply your own books, you supply your own paper. No tricks, no glue, no Velcro. And I want you to put your chin to the table, and I will give anyone in this class $1 million if you can blow this piece of paper up to the books. And they're all going, and I got them. "Mr. Wong, it won't move. Mr. Wong, it won't budge. Mr. Wong, I can't blow the paper off. How come? I got them." Now, I don't know how many of you know what I just did. It's called an energizer. It's called a focuser. It's called a zinger. It's called a motivator. It's called an anticipatory set. It's called an advanced organizer. Now, all the good teachers in here know what I've just done. And by that I mean, all good, effective teachers know that when you begin an assignment, when you begin a topic, when you begin anything, you have to do something to energize them, to focus them, to motivate them, to get their curiosity piqued so they're interested in your assignment. Now, you'll understand what I'm talking about when I tell you how ineffective teachers do assignments. This is how an ineffective teacher begins an assignment. Does anyone know where we left off yesterday? And the students go, holy smokes. If the teacher doesn't know what to do, if the teacher doesn't know where we are, how can the teacher expect us to know what to do and where we are? Got my point? And so in my classroom, I have everyone peaked. How do I know that? Because I have everyone's curiosity in here. Don't think I don't know. You are all looking at the picture. You are all looking up here, aren't you? And I know exactly what's going through your mind. Harry, would you invite me up here? And if I could blow that piece of paper off the new books, would you give me $1 million? I will make you an offer that you cannot refuse. I will give anyone in here $5 million if you can blow that piece of paper off the new books. And you all know what you're going to do when this meeting is all over? You're going to run home, get 2 books out, put it on the table, leave a space in between, put a piece of paper on top. You put your chin to the table, and I want you to blow between the 2 books, and you're all going to go. No tricks, no glue, no Velcro. I know you don't believe what you just saw. You'll never do it. You think I'm a fool to make you an offer of $5 million? If I thought one of you might accidentally blow it off the 2 books, you'll never do it. You will never do it. I guarantee you'll never do it. And the more I stand here and say, I guarantee you'll never do it, the more you're determined to go home and try it. But I'll tell you what. Rosemary and I will gladly give you $5 million if you manage to do it. If you manage to do it, please call us at the airport. Why? Because if you manage to blow that piece of paper off the 2 books, every airplane will fall out of the sky. Every bird will fall out of the sky, and don't bother to go out and start your car at this meeting because your carburetor will not run. And the students are going, huh? What do you mean my car won't run? What do you mean the birds will fall out of the sky? What do you mean the airplanes will fall out of the sky? Mr. Wong, how come? Mr. Wong, how come? How come? How come? I say, students, you want to know how come? Yeah, Mr. Wong, we all want to know how come. Then read it, chapter 24. What do you mean you can't get your students to read? You know why the students won't read? Because teachers go to the chalkboard and they write down. Your assignment is chapter 7. There'll be a test Friday covering everything in chapter 7. Whoopee, isn't that exciting? I wouldn't read it either. I'm about to say something profound. Don't write this down. It is not important. It is profound. No adult has ever willingly picked up a textbook to read it. Have you? No. None of us have ever willingly picked up a textbook, no, to truly read it. Now, if you and I won't do it and we're intelligent, educated people, then why should a student? Just because I write down chapter 7, that's your assignment, they won't read it. There's no reason to read it. And why do my students read it? Because there's a reason. Every single student wants $1 million. Every single student wants an explanation. And don't think I don't know what I'm talking about. Because you're all sitting here, admit it, waiting for me to tell you why that piece of paper can't be blown up to 2 books, right? In fact, some of you already started with your neighbor. Hey, do you know why? Do you know why? Do you know why? Do you know why? You all want to know why that piece of paper cannot be blown off to 2 books. I know you do. Now, if there are any good, effective teachers in here, will I ever tell the class? No. Why? Because as long as you don't know, I have you in my clutches. I can do anything I want with you. If I decide to give you a worksheet, you'll fill out the worksheet. If I decide to show a video, you will watch the video. Why? Because you want an explanation. You also want $1 million. If I decide to deliver a lecture, you'll listen to me. If I give you a reading assignment, you'll read. But here comes the best one. If I decide to divide that class up into groups and have you solve the problem, you will willingly break yourself up into groups so that we can solve the problem. And so I say to my students, I want you to go home tonight and do that. I want you to mystify the family. And in 2 days, I guarantee I'll turn you into a genius. You'll be able to go home and tell the family why that piece of paper cannot be blown off to 2 books. You'll also be able to explain to everyone at home how a bird flies, how an airplane flies, and how a car runs. Really, Mr. Wong? Let's go, let's go, let's go. You see, I got him. And so I say to my students, this is what I want to do. I'm going to divide you into some groups. But I've got some procedures as to what I do when I divide the class into groups. Now, before I explain the procedures, let me share with you, my fellow colleagues, why I divide my class into groups from time to time to time. Because I happen to know something, that when I divide students into groups where they support and help each other, they will learn a whole lot more than if they work all by themselves. In fact, the research says that the worst way to teach students, especially the at-risk students, especially the students who are not doing well, is to tell that student, sit there by yourself, do your work, do your work, do your work. That's the worst way to teach a student who is not doing well. The research says that learning is most effective when it takes place in a support community where the students are surrounded by people who help them and support them. And so in my class, when I divide my class into groups, my groups are not called group squads or teams. My groups are called support groups. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever heard this concept. It's chapter 24 in here. I'm about to share with you the highest form of teaching. Now, before I share with you the highest form of teaching, let me share with you that this is the lowest form of teaching. Here's the book, sit there, fill out the worksheet, watch the video, here's the test, 50 points. Whoopee, isn't that exciting? This is the highest form of teaching. It's when I'm able to get my students to work together cooperatively. Now, please understand, group work and cooperative learning are two different animals. I'm not talking about group work, I am talking about cooperative learning. The highest form of teaching is when you're able to get the students together working cooperatively. Number two, solving an open-ended problem. And number three, using higher order thinking skills. Come and let me show you how it is done. I say to my students, I'm going to divide you into groups. Now, at this point, fellow teachers, I know what's going to happen. The two questions they have, the second they find out they're going to be divided in the group is, Mr. Wong, who do I work with? Mr. Wong, do I have to work with him? Mr. Wong, can I work with her? And Mr. Wong, how long do we have to stay in these groups? Do we have to stay in these groups till we draw Social Security, Mr. Wong? You all know what's coming. I know what's coming, so I beat them to the punch. I am so positive. I say, students, I got some real good news for you. We're going to do 50 to 60 activities this year. And they go, yay, 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 yay. They love to do activities. And I say, before I divide you into the first group, let me just share something with you that's consistent procedure with all of the groups. Every time I divide you into a group, there will be a different number of people in the group. Why? Because I need a different number of people to get a different number of jobs done. So please don't ask me if you can work with someone. Don't tell me you don't want to work with someone else. Expect to work in 50 to 60 different groups with 50 to 60 different combinations of people, because some of my activities I need 2 people in the group. Some I need 7. Some I may even need 11. So whatever number I need, I will divide the class accordingly. Now that satisfies them. And the second thing I want to share with you is this. Please don't ask me how long you're going to be in the group, because I'm going to tell you the answer right now. You will be in the group until the activity is completed. You see, some of my activities take 2 minutes. Some of them take 20 minutes. Some of them take 2 days. Some of them may even drag out to a week. And when the activity is finished, you will be disbanded from the group. Now, that's the classic mistake that many elementary school teachers make. They divide their class always into groups of 2 or 3 or 4. Why do you do it? And you keep your groups together far too long. And that's why they ask you, how long do we have to stay in the groups? In my classroom, my students are in 50 to 60 different groups with 50 to 60 different combinations of people for 50 to 60 different lengths of time. And when I divide them into a group, my groups are called support groups. And every member of the support group is called the support buddy. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard this concept before. It's a wonderful system. I say to my students, when I divide you into a group, I want you to call your group a support group. And when I divide you into a support group, there are some procedures that govern how the group functions. There it is. There it is. That is why my class runs so smoothly. That's why my class is a well-oiled learning environment. Why? Because every time I do an activity, there's a set of procedures that governs how the activity runs. Why didn't somebody tell me this when I was a brand new teacher? When I was a brand new teacher full of fantasy, I walked in the classroom and I say, hey, I got an activity. Yay, yay, yay. They say, here's the activity, here's the activity, here's the activity. We're going to have so much fun doing this activity. You all have a copy of the worksheet? Good. Break yourself up into groups of 4 and let's go to work. And then my problems began. Mr. Wong, who do I work with? Mr. Wong, do I have to work with her again? Mr. Wong, can I work with him? Mr. Wong, when's it due? Mr. Wong, do you want me to write on one side or both sides? Mr. Wong, Mr. Wong, Mr. Wong, Mr. Wong. Whine, 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 whine. Every single one of those questions they asked me was what? A procedural question that should have been answered before the very first activity. And so I say to my students, when you work in a group in this classroom, there are 4 procedures. Now, what you're about to see now is how procedures are implemented to be part of the instructional program. You're about to see how I instruct my students and make use of procedures at the same time. And what you're about to see is 4 separate procedures that I have strung end to end. Procedure number 1. You will have a job in the group. You are responsible for that job. Whoopee! There's no such thing now as one student sitting around doing nothing, leeching, cheating, copying from someone else. I will show you how it's done. Let me do 2, 3, and 4, and then I'll come back to number 1. You're going to log number 2. While you are working in a group, if you have a question, do not raise your hand. Ask a support buddy. That's a procedure. Whoopee! You like it already, huh? During group work, there are no hands. And if there are no hands, you don't have to run around warm to a frazzle helping them. Why? Because if they have a question, they are to ask a support buddy. And procedure number 3 says, if you are asked for help, you must help. That's the beautiful thing about that. Because I tell my students, please don't raise your hand. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're 28 years old working in an office, you will not put up your hand. Now, just think about it, kids. You're 28 years old, you're working in an office, and all of a sudden you put your hand up. You'll be the only one with the hand up. They'll all laugh at you. They're going to say, what do you want? You want your mama? You want permission to go wee-wee? May I tell you what this means? It means I'm lost, I'm helpless, I don't know anything. When someone pays you a salary, they want productivity and production. You don't stand around the office and go, I don't know anything, I don't know anything. They'll fire you. If you don't know the answer, you use the company library. You pick a telephone, you ask someone, or better yet, you ask one of your fellow colleagues who've been paid a salary too. Because you have to work together as a team to solve the problem. Otherwise, they will get rid of you. Same thing in this classroom. You're a team, you're a support group. If you do not know something, ask a support buddy. Support buddy number 1 doesn't know the answer, ask support buddy number 2. Support buddy number 2 doesn't know the answer, ask support buddy number 3. And if you are asked for help, you must help. And then finally, step number 4. If you are all lost, I want you to join together as a group and come up with a consensus question. And when you all agree on the common question, when you all agree on the question, raise your hand. And Mr. Wong will be most pleased to come and help the entire group solve its one question, one problem, one issue. Why? Because you cannot solve a problem until the problem has been identified. I have just taught problem solving. Now let's go back to number 1. What's this thing about you are responsible for your own job or your own work? The research says that the number of people in a group must equal the number of jobs in a group. I assign jobs in my classroom. I don't know how many of you have ever seen something written like this, but when I write my worksheets for cooperative learning, on page number 1, I have a section entitled Job Responsibilities. I spell out the jobs. And so for the sake of discussion today, I have a group of 4. I spell out the job descriptions or job responsibilities or tasks for each of the 4 students. It says, student number 1, your responsibility or your job or your task is to go get the materials and return them to the appropriate place when the day or period is over. If it's a 3-day activity, that's your job. You go get your return, you get your return, you get your return. Student number 2, your job, your task, your responsibility is to take the group through the steps of the activity. Whoopee, whoopee, my fellow colleagues, I don't put up with this garbage anymore. Mr. Wong, where are we? Mr. Wong, what are we doing? Mr. Wong, are we doing it right? If you ever have any questions as to what is happening, ask student number 2. And student number 2, this is your job. On page 1 of the worksheet, underneath job description, you will see a section entitled Activity Step. They are written like a cookbook, Betty Crocker style. A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your job is to take the group through the steps of the activity. Now, while we go through the steps of the activity, things are going to happen. That's why teachers have you do things. Why? Because when you do things, we know something as teachers. You learn when you do. You learn when you feel. You learn when you hear. You learn when you taste. You learn when you're able to actually see it kinesthetically. And so while we're doing things, student number 3, write down what's happening. Record minutes. Make your observations. And then when it's all over, student number 4, your job is to oversee. The key word is oversee. You are not to do it. You are to oversee the writing of the one group report. And I want you all to sign it. And whatever is the grade on that one group report will be your individual grades. And so students, I want you to do two things. Number one, I want you to do your specific job and pitch in and help the group by doing your job. And number two, I want you to join together as a team and as a group and help write that group report, because the better the group report, the better your individual grade. Why? Because when you leave school, you are not going to turn in individual reports again like you are always doing in school, one after another. Now please, you will still do that in my classroom, but from time to time you will be doing what I call cooperative learning, problem-solving activities, in which you only have to turn in one report, which is going to be very common. You see, look at me, students. I've been teaching over 35 years, and I have never turned into my principal an individual report. Have you people? No. You might as well know that when you go into the world, you're going to turn in commission reports, project reports, team reports, committee reports. And everyone in that project, everyone in that team wants a raise in salary and a promotion. And if you do not contribute to the product of the team, the product of the commission, the rest of the people at the team will run you out of the company. I got this letter from a man in Michigan. His name is Dick Cairo. He said, Harry, my daughter recently graduated from Michigan Technological University and was hired by IBM as a computer scientist in their think tank in Owego, New York. She was immediately put into a group. The group was assigned projects. The success of each individual, that is higher pay promotions, was dependent upon the success of the group to a significant extent. And so why am I doing what I am doing in my classroom? Well, the reason I am doing what I'm doing in my classroom, my fellow colleagues, are for two reasons. Number one, I happen to know it is pedagogically sound that when students work together in groups, helping each other, supporting each other, they learn a whole lot more than when they're told to sit there by themselves and fill out a worksheet. The second reason why I do what I do is because I am preparing my students for the world, which is what we all say. We're preparing our students for the world. And so if we are preparing our students for the world, then we need to know the world. And so what I have just described to you is the world of today. I'm not talking about the world of tomorrow we're preparing for them. I'm talking about the world of today that arrived yesterday. Now, what is this world? You all know that most all the major successful companies in the entire world have organized their entire workforce into groups called teams, in which they expect everyone coming to be a self-motivated, self-directed, procedure-oriented, knowing how to work in a self-directed group. And so how can we possibly prepare students for this kind of a world when some teachers say, sit there by yourself, don't talk, do your own work, do your work, do your own work. And others of us are teaching students how to work responsibly, self-directed, self-motivated in a group, helping each other to solve problems. Now, if you like what I just said about cooperative learning, and you plan to go back and do some of this or try some of this, when I wave my hand, I'd like to invite you to say, own it. Here we go. Own it. Once more, please. Own it. Thank you. I need to share something with you. I work with my students in groups because I know it's pedagogically sound. I'm preparing my students for the world. But I never realized that I was going to do the third thing I'm about to share with you. It's something that has been fairly recent. I didn't have to do it the very first 20 to 25 years of my career. But it's been more important lately. I have students who come to school who do not know how to work in groups. I need to share with you that discipline is not my problem. I need to share with you that reading or procedures is not my problem. The major problem that I have in the classroom today, and it is getting worse and worse and worse and worse, is that I have students come to my school and do not know how to work in groups. They come to school only knowing about themselves, but there's a reason. There is a reason. It's the culture that they've been brought up in. And let me share with you what I mean by culture. I don't know how many of you have detected something by now. My classroom has a culture. Successful teachers create a classroom culture. Successful principals, when you walk on that campus, have a culture at that school. Ineffective schools, ineffective classrooms have no culture. You walk into the place and it's basically sterile. I mean, people are doing their work, but it's sterile. is no style, no panache, no atmosphere, nothing. It just exists. But the good, effective teachers, when you walk in, you can just feel it. There is just something about that room that is a culture. Her name is Judy Gustafson, Austin, Texas. She handed this to me recently. She says, these are my procedures. I have a procedure when you are tardy, and it's given to her students. There's a procedure when you leave the room. There's a procedure for dismissal. There's a procedure when you ask a question. There's a procedure when you respond to a question. There's a procedure when you need a pen or pencil. There's a procedure when you turn in papers. There's a procedure when I need your attention. There's a procedure when you are absent. There is a procedure when someone knocks on the door. There's a procedure when you work together cooperatively, and it goes on and on. But I come back to the first page, and this is what Judy Gustafson, Austin, Texas says. Procedures are a part of life. We follow procedures when we use a telephone book, board an airplane, approach a traffic light, and attend a wedding. The reason we have procedures in life is so that people can function in society, knowing the acceptable and efficient ways other people do things. There are also procedures in this classroom. These procedures establish our classroom culture. Our culture will be one of academic emphasis, positive attitude, cooperative effort, and a safe, supportive environment that encourages and rewards risk-taking. Judy creates a culture. I have a culture. Let me explain what I mean by culture. Now, please understand before I go any further that culture is not right or wrong. Culture is not good or bad. Culture simply is what exists. Culture is simply nothing more than a set of shared values. Gangs have a culture. People who collect stamps have a culture. Teachers have a culture. We all have a culture. It is not right or wrong. It is simply what exists. I would like to share with you one culture. We've all just returned from lunch. We love to eat. Admit it. We love to eat. But how do we eat? Let me share with you how we are eating today. We no longer eat as a group. When 3 groups of 25 people were asked, 18 out of 20 in each group said they no longer sat down as a family to sit together. 5-10 minutes a day, parents, and we no longer sit at the dinner table as a family to eat. But we all eat. In fact, we not only eat, we all love to eat. So how do we eat? We graze. Do you know that term? It has nothing to do with Texas cattle. Grazing is used by the food industry, and it describes how we eat. Grazing means we drive through, we nosh, we snack, we microwave. In other words, we eat all by ourselves as fast as possible. You don't believe me? Go out and observe culture. I would like you to go out and look at some grazing emporiums. I want you to walk into Burger King. I want you to walk into Hardee's. I want you to walk into Taco Bell, and this is what you will observe. There are tables in there of 2 or 4. If you're lucky, there may be one table of 6 or 8 people. That's all. And so if you're Catholic or Mormon, you're in trouble. And what you see in these fast food restaurants typically are people eating all by themselves with a hamburger in one hand and a book in the other hand, eating all by themselves. You will rarely see an intact family in there. With luck, you may see a single parent in there, bless you, with a family. But more than likely, parents, what you will see are young people in there eating with each other without even a single parent. And parents, when young people eat with other young people, they acculturate each other. What does that mean? It means the passing on of culture from one generation to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. And the principal place at which culture is transferred is the dinner table, and we don't even have a dinner table. Let me share with you how we are feeding our children today. Have you ever seen this product? The product is called Kid Cuisine. In the bottom right-hand corner of every box of Kid Cuisine is a free fun packet. And we say to this little child, sit here and eat this dinner all by yourself. And while you're eating this dinner all by yourself, play with this free fun packet and entertain yourself. Why? Because I don't have time to sit down with you. I don't have time to read to you. I don't have time to talk to you. I don't have time to listen to you. I don't have any time to love and care for you. Sit there and eat that dinner all by yourself. And these students come to my class, absolutely devoid of family, starved for affection, starved for bonding, starved for a family. Because at home, feed yourself, because I'm too busy doing something else. And as a result, what has happened is we now have a culture of dysfunctional families, which is very, very normal. For you see, fellow parents, traditionally speaking, culture has always been passed on by the home, the church, and the school. But today's youth, unfortunately, are acquiring their culture from the media, the fast food restaurants, and the shopping malls. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Let me explain to you what I mean by culture. There are three things that make up culture: knowledge, practices, and beliefs. Let me begin with knowledge. And that's why we all have a job, whoopee, because our job is to teach knowledge to children. Because the more knowledge you have, the more cultured you are, right? For instance, you may have a friend, Janice. You say, my friend Janice, oh, she is so cultured. What do you mean your friend Janice is so cultured? Well, Harry, she knows so much. You know, she knows basketball, Beethoven, Bach, basket weaving. She just knows so much. My friend Janice, she is so cultured. Not only that, she's got the right practices. What does that mean? Well, she's got the right habits, the right etiquette, and here comes the word, the right procedures. She knows what to do in a given situation when other people are around. Like what? She knows when an elevator stops, you let other people get off before you get on. She knows that when you sit at the dinner table, which knife and which fork to use. She knows that the solids, the bread is on the left side, and the liquid is also on the right side. She just knows what to do. She knows how to say thank you, you're welcome. She knows how to say please. You see, these are all taught at the dinner table. For you see, it is at the dinner table that the dinner table is the cornerstone of conversation and civilization. It is at the dinner table that young people also learn how to say please, thank you, you're welcome. It is at the dinner table the family learns to talk with each other, conversation. And if you're wondering why our young people are not now coming to school and they don't even know how to converse with us, the reason is there's no dinner table where they are taught how to converse with each other. They converse with their friends in the malls, in the shopping centers, and the restaurants. But it's at the dinner table where we talk. We ask them what they did today, and they find out what mother and father did today. We talk about vacations. We talk about dreams. We talk about going to college. We even argue and fight. But we learn how to solve problems and move on with life. We learn how to solve problems at the family dinner table. And it's at the dinner table that the students learn practices. And it's at the family dinner table that they learn values. My friend Janice has values. Well, wait a minute, Harry. No, your values may not be my values. No, I'm talking about standard values that we all agree on. Such as what? Hard work, integrity, honesty, diligence, respect. Everyone agrees on those. And my friend Janice is cultured. She has knowledge, practices, and beliefs. Now, the key word up there is group, however. You see, culture is passed on by a group. Culture is not an individual phenomenon. You cannot give a child a book and say, read this book. Everything you need to know is in this book. No. Culture is passed on from one generation to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. Because what I'm trying to convey to you is that culture is passed on from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And so when you leave this meeting today, and you turn on your air conditioner in your car, and it's very comfortable within another block or two, and you go home and there's also an air conditioner at home, and a microwave oven, which makes living very easy, and you sit there with your remote control, and you may even have a computer, and you have all the niceties of life that make life just so comfortable for us. especially when you pick up the newspaper today and read about what's happening elsewhere in the world. But when you look at your own comfort, would you do me a favor? Get down on your knees tonight and thank your parents, because they passed it on to us. And I want you to thank your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-grandparents, your great-grandparents, and your great-grandparents. For you see, there have been some 60 generations of human beings on the face of the earth, of which some 50 to 54 have lived in caves or worse. And everything you see around us that has made life so comfortable for us has all been invented in the last 2 generations. That culture has been passed on and on and on to us. And the tragedy is that culture is not being passed on to the next generation. Why? Because we're preoccupied with me, I. I'm too busy. I have to go shopping. I have to go on a cruise. I have to do this. I have to do this. So sit there and eat that dinner all by yourself. And we're not passing it on to the next generation. Now, I'm going to share with you 2 groups that are fairly successful. And I'll tell you why they're successful. Please, I am in no way trying to promote these 2 groups. And the 2 groups are the Mormons and the Asians. Now, please, I'm not trying to promote them. But let me tell you about the Mormons. They're 19 years old. They are sent out into the world to do missionary work. You know they're coming. They don't hide it. They're on a bicycle, black pants, white shirt, black tie, even have a badge that says elder. You see them coming a mile away, right? You run. Observation. Never an adult supervisor with them. Observation number 2. When was the last time you remember picking up a newspaper and reading about a Mormon missionary getting into trouble somewhere in the world? Never. Why not? I'll tell you why not in a second. The second group I want to talk to you about are the Asians. I don't want to talk to you about their academic success. You know what it is. I don't want to talk about their financial success. You know what it is. I want to talk about something else. In literally every single instance, if you have ever had an Asian student in your classroom, I would be willing to bet that that student will treat you with respect, dignity, and awe. And when you say to that child, do something, they will not only do it, they will go beyond, if possible. Why? 2 diverse groups, blonde, dark-haired. Why? They both have something very, very similar that drives both groups. The answer is the family comes first. The next time you are invited to a family of Mormons, go. Don't be afraid. Monday night is called family night. They will not try to convert you. It's exactly what it is, a family night. They barbecue, play basketball, they swim. They just have a nice family time. They eat dinner, and boy, do they love to eat, especially sugars and desserts. They will eat. And then at the end of the family night, they may have a prayer, they may sing a hymn. Mother and father will always say something of value to the children, and then it's disbanded. It's very user-friendly. The next time you are invited to a Chinese dinner, and I mean an honest-to-goodness, real Chinese dinner. I do not mean a tourist restaurant. I mean a Chinese dinner where Chinese people are sitting at the dinner table. Have you ever seen them? They sit at round tables, and you will typically see 6, 8, 10, 12 people at the table. You will see 2, frequently 3, and once in a while even 4 generations of an extended family sitting at the dinner table. And that is Kimberly sitting in the far right-hand corner. And that's Kimberly's mother, Cindy of Give Me 5 fame. And that's her husband, Trent, who is my son. And on this other side, to the left of Kimberly, is Mr. and Mrs. Georgie. They are the parents of Cindy. And then Rosemary and I are on this side of the picture, and we took the picture. And oh, you noticed something else, huh? It is very typical for Kimberly to not only see family, but extended family, but often she will see at the table neighbors, friends, relatives, brothers and sisters at the table. And not only that, Kimberly observes culture in action. Watch. When we sit down at dinner, there's no such thing as my dinner. This is my dinner. The food is put in the middle of the table, and it is served Amish style. It is served Pennsylvania Dutch style. It is served Nebraska, Iowa farm style. It is served family style to be shared with everyone. The first dish comes to the table. You will not find Kimberly screaming, I want, as we do with children today. We load them into a car or a station wagon, and we drive through a grazing emporium. And they bark into a microphone. And for some crazy reason, at the second window, food appears free and mysterious. And if they don't get what they want, they start screaming, I want, large bag, large bag, large bag. But at this dinner table, she sits there. Because mother and father have prepared a dinner that is balanced diet. And we break bread and serve dinner together. And when the first dish comes, she does not scream, me, I want. She knows what's going to happen, because I'm going to describe to you what happens. The very first thing that happens is that Cindy will push that first dish towards her mother. And she will say, Mom, please start. That's called respect for parents, respect for adults, respect for authority. And that's why when those Asian kids come to your classroom, they have learned respect for adults, respect for teachers, respect for parents. Now, if you're a grandparent, you know what's going to happen right now. Janet will take that dish and push it back towards Cindy. And like all good grandparents, what will you say? Feed the little kid first. Cindy takes that dish and pushes it back towards her mother and say, Mom, start dinner. Janet takes the dish and pushes it back towards Cindy. Now, Kimberly knows what's going to happen. She sits at dinner table every single night. She watches that plate go back and forth 3 times. And then after the 3rd time, Cindy will say to her mother, Mom, will you please start? Because if you don't start, we're all starving. Please start dinner. And Janet says, all right, I'll start first. But the next dish that comes to the table, the next person is to start first. Now, what's Kimberly observing? Hospitality, giving, sharing with other people. And then as we go through the dinner, Kimberly is part of the conversation. She doesn't sit there by herself. She listens to the adults talk about their life, what happened in our life 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. She is learning history. She hears us talking about today. She is picking up current events. And we include her in our conversation. We say, Kimberly, were you a good girl today? Kimberly, did you pick up your toys today? Kimberly, did you listen to your mother today? Kimberly, did you have a nice day today? And Kimberly, when you grow up, what kind of a doctor are you going to grow up to be? Well, you see, the family is the guardian and disseminator of culture. The function of schools and church is simply to help the family disseminate that culture. Sam Sava said that the change in the family structure is the greatest single cause of the decline of student achievement during the past 20 years. I believe that. And I'm not putting that up there just because I believe it. I do believe it. And to the critics of education, this is what I would like to say. Education is a product of society. Education cannot be better than society because we are a product of society. So, would you stop complaining about education and take a look at society? That's the problem. Because in the final analysis, teachers and parents, we have but 2 functions in life. You come into this world with nothing, you will leave with nothing. And during the time that you are on this earth, you will be judged by how you serve and help other people. And so as parents and teachers, we have but 2 functions. Number 1, roots, and number 2, wings. What do I mean by roots? You give your students a firm foundation of culture, meaning what? Knowledge, practices, and values. And once you give them knowledge, practices, and values, then you can say to your children, fly, fly. You can be anyone you want to be. You can even be President of the United States. You can be a brain surgeon. That is our function as parents and teachers.